So La Motte, they're just setting up the gliders. A bit late, 2:30 p.m, but I won't be flying today. I've just had a shower. I forgot to shave, unfortunately. It's been a long trip. Have to give it to Kamila. It was a little quicker than driving, flying in from Prague. So less than 24 hours, and I'm all cleaned up. But it is time for a nap, I think. So yeah, awesome to be here. And just a week this time, then going back to Prague to pick up the car that's sitting there getting an oil change. Hopefully, and hopefully I'll go back with my license.
So having the car has really been a game changer. It's been awesome. It's just you travelling around, you've got things with you, you don't have to limit things to whatever you can hang off the wheelchair. And you can always sleep in the back with a mattress in the back. It's just a perfect setup. There's been a couple of breakdowns, but I guess there's risks with public transport too. You never know. And luckily they haven't caused much trouble, but getting to the Glider Club this time, I'll just talk about everything that happened. So over a few days we drove across the Czech Republic. I had an evening flight out of Prague to Marseille, and that was partly chosen. Like, we probably would have been more convenient to go from Krakow, but the airfares got expensive there, and now only 15 euros or 20 euros from Prague, flying right past the Alps, but at night time, so you didn't get to see them, unfortunately. But yeah, basically I got flights from Prague to Marseille and back again a week later. So the idea was to leave the car in Prague, and I thought it might be convenient to get an oil change at the same time, and then I can park at the mechanics, leave it there, because I hadn't organised anything else. But it seems like you can't just park in the park in Prague. So Kamila found a mechanic that was on the eastern side of Prague, close to a metro station. I could take the metro to the airport, and I dropped her off at that metro because she had a train station a few hours earlier than me. And then I went to the mechanic, and it's a little bit expensive in Prague. It's probably cheaper than Australia, I suppose, to get an oil change, but not as good as Poland. But yeah, we hadn't really sussed out the prices that much, so yeah, I had to decide whether to do it, and then I had to go through the car and try and pack everything. I spent ages trying to find an inflatable mattress because the idea was that I would sleep at the airport, but I couldn't find it. And I think, like, when I was on the plane a few hours later, I think I might know where I put it, under with the spare tyre, but I didn't look there. I was looking through all the boxes and bags and under the front seats and everywhere I could think of. And anyway, all this mucking around meant I was getting a bit stressed because I knew I was running out of time, and it takes about an hour to get across the city in the metro to catch the plane. So I was just going as fast as I could at the end there, but I knew it'd be close. And I remember when I left the mechanic, I went up the road, and there wasn't a sidewalk. I had to push up the road a bit. And when I got to the end of the road onto the sidewalk, I just checked Google Maps to make sure, because I had a rough idea of where the metro was, where I'd left Kamila. And I just wanted to check the times and everything. I knew I didn't have that much time to the airport. I'd had a few panic calls to Kamila earlier as well, just looking for things and trying to figure everything out. And the Google Maps said something like an hour and a half, so I was definitely going to miss the plane. But I sent that to Kamila with exclamation marks and question marks, and she said, "No, don't take the bus, take the metro." And still, it was almost around an hour trip time, because you got to connect with a bus. But that was enough to make it just if everything went right. Unfortunately, earlier that day, with the spinal problems, obviously not being able to walk is one of the major ones, but there's also the incontinence issues. So on the backside, luckily I rarely have problems, and that's been a great help. But I have had bladder leaks in the last few months. I've come up with this awesome solution where I just plug in a catheter that stays in there for a week. I can't feel anything, but there's a tube that goes into my bladder and a bag that sits under my pants on my lap. So that normally fills up and empties the bladder. So when I transfer it is when I normally have little leaks. Anything that's in there will get squished out. But if it's already out, then it's all good. But the problem is the new bladder bag I've been using, it easily gets kinks, so it can get blocked. So I can actually have quite a bit more bladder. So earlier that day, I'd leaked quite a bit. Well, not that much actually, but it doesn't take much. So it was all disgusting, and I was racing to the airport. I was hoping to have a few hours to sort myself out there. But yeah, that was another thing. Like when I'm just trying to pack the car, just lifting myself up to stretch around to reach something or whatever, is when I'm leaking. So I'd leaked a few times in addition to the original spot. But like the previous week, for example, I don't think I'd leaked at all. Like the system is normally awesome, but just getting kinks in the bladder bag meant I couldn't, that it wasn't filling up. So anyway, I raced off to the metro and caught the metro. That all went well. And then the change from the metro to the bus, I followed the signs and pretty much was there with a minute until the next bus, and they're every 6 minutes anyway. But got to the bus. I got to the airport on time. The airport was amazing. There was no queue whatsoever at the check-in. The people there were really nice. I was probably about 20 minutes before the check-in cut-off, and they did want to put me in their wheelchair straight away. Normally I change at the boarding gate, or actually right at the plane. That is when outside the door of the plane is when I jump into their narrow wheelchair that fits down the aisle. And I said, look, no, that's not really the way to do it for me. I never do it that way, and how am I going to go to the toilet, for example? Keep in mind that I was pretty stinky from all the leaks through the day. And they said, yeah, but it's easier for us. And then they agreed to call whoever to sort it out, and they agreed that my way was okay. So security, I was just super fast and efficient, like getting all the bag under the seat of the wheelchair, transferring, showing them everything. They did a really thorough check. But it was pretty quick because I've done that a few times before. And this time I ripped the pee bag out of my pants, and I made sure the tube wasn't kinked and that it all could fill up before I did a transfer, which is what I should get into a habit of, I suppose. But it's pretty inconvenient. But yeah, normally the bag I use, it doesn't kink, or it has once or twice, but hardly ever. But this one's got more capacity, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying a different thing. That's the thing. I take lots of risks. I try new things, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but sometimes it does, and you find a new solution. So I got through security, and then I just raced to the toilet, and I hadn't done a number 2 since the previous morning, so it was 36 hours, I guess. So I sorted that out, and the toilet was perfect because I could reach the sink while sitting on the toilet, and that way I took off my stinky jocks, gave them a rinse and a soap, and then used them to wipe myself clean and put on a new pair, so I was all clean. It was amazing. Went out to the check-in. The boarding gate was just around the corner, and actually they hadn't started boarding, so I actually ended up waiting quite a while because it got a bit delayed, about half an hour. And then into Marseille, and yeah, they were great there as well, but it was good that I was independent because they seemed pretty busy, and they think that they appreciated that I was pretty independent and could carry everything myself anyway. There was someone else getting assistance, and I just followed along. And then the plan was to sleep at the airport. I had the little half tent with me, but I did appreciate having good Wi-Fi. I uploaded like over half a dozen videos of the road trip, so probably at least 10 gigabytes over a few hours, just leaning against the wall on my wheelchair, plugged in to recharge my phone at the same time, which finally at the end of the 4 hours or so at 4 in the morning was close to fully charged. And then I went off to find a campsite. Normally I'd like to find a spot in the grass. There isn't much grass in southern France, but there was a perfect little spot between a fence and a wall, not far from the airport, where it was quiet, and I could put the wheelchair where it wouldn't go anywhere because it just pushed against the fence, and it was a perfect little spot. And I didn't have a sleeping mat, as I said, but I did have, the wheelchair cushion and a few other soft things in my bag, a blow-up pillow, my homemade shower seat thing. So it was all good, and I actually fell asleep, and it was pretty good, only for a few hours before my alarm went off for the bus, but actually slept through the alarm because I put some earbuds in to make it real quiet. It's still, there's cars around, I suppose, not that far away, and just ambient noise. So I was sleeping through the alarm, which was the phone was in my chest pocket, but I finally woke up at 6:40, so I thought, oh shit, I've missed the bus, because I checked the times before I went to bed, obviously, and it was about 40 minutes late. But in fact, Google said I could still make it. It was just a really short change over time at Aix-en-Provence. So I packed as quick as I could, got to the bus with a minute or two to spare. I was prepared to transfer myself up the steps because I forgot to make a booking. You're supposed to do it 36 to 48 hours ahead in France, in southern France. So I was prepared to do that, but they actually had the gear to lift up my wheelchair on the side of the bus anyway. So I did that, but I was a bit worried because they were very nice and everything, but that meant it took a few extra minutes to do that wheelchair thing. So we left a little bit delayed. And it was only a few minutes to change at Aix-en-Provence. But we got there and it was fine. There was some disabled people assistants or whatever, in the yellow vests, that helped out. And I used a bit of French and everyone was pretty friendly. But yeah, they did ask me why I hadn't made a reservation or make a comment about that. And the bus driver from Aix-en-Provence north was, I think I was the only guy on this big bus, but yeah, he was a little bit, he wasn't super nice like the other guys. He was okay, I suppose. But I noticed they changed the bus for me, and that meant it was 8 minutes delayed. So there is a bus where the driver is at ground level, and then the steps are just behind that, so you can sit in these two seats behind the driver. So I did that. That was easy. And there was no electronic ramp lifting device to get me up, but just a little ramp to get in the door, which I wouldn't even need anyway, to be honest, because I can wheelie up. But so I got in there, and that took me to Sisteron, and from there I had an hour to change and a little push from the train station to the bus station, and enough time to get groceries. And there I talked in French to the lady at the little bus office and said sorry I didn't make a booking, but she rang and sorted it out for me while I went around the town getting some groceries, and visited an awesome bakery. A couple of baguettes, one's in the freezer now, one I ate yesterday, and because this is after a night at the Gliding Club now that I'm recording this. And then the minibus, which costs €2.50, close to a tenth of the cost of the last bus, and last buses, and that takes me pretty much to the gliding club, just a 2k roll down the hill to get there. So it's pretty awesome. When I got to the gliding club, the shower was the best ever, and I set up the tent and had a little nap in the afternoon. It was awesome. It was a pretty cloudy day with high cloud. There's a few flights, but they started really late, and I didn't mind not flying that day. So a bit of an adventure. Best to book ahead with the buses, but possible if you don't, especially if you're willing to transfer yourselves up the steps anyway, and you can take a risk that they're going to let you do it. And now I'm here hoping to finish off the gliding license. More administrative drama to deal with, and the season's coming to a close, I guess. Yeah, it's starting to get cold at night in the tents again. I might have to get an extra blanket tomorrow night, but I made it. Kamila's organising her orienteering competition the last few days before it happens, and I'll go back to meet her in Prague a week after I left, and then we'll continue south for more adventures in the last of the European summer.